When you think about the First World War, many people think of the big players. Germany, Russia, France, Great Britain. But what about smaller nations? Because the history hustler definitely has not forgotten about those. And in this video, we're going to look at Serbia. Serbia was attacked by Austro-Hungary and basically witnessed the first hostilities of the First World War. Therefore, Serbia was the first to fight. In this video, we're going to talk about Serbia during World War I. Keep watching. For a long time, Serbia was a part of the Ottoman Empire. Several uprisings in the early 19th century resulted in more autonomy for the Serbs within the Ottoman Empire when the so-called Principality of Serbia was established in 1815. In 1835, it got a new constitution, which was actually one of the most modern in Europe of that time. In 1878, Serbia managed to gain full independence. A few years later, the principality became a kingdom. The period after independence was initially unstable, yet Serbia strengthened its ties with Russia and Bulgaria, therefore alienating Austro-Hungary. The Austrians came up with sanctions, which hit the Serbian economy. In 1908, Bosnia, where many ethnic Serbs lived, was fully annexed by the Austro-Hungarians. They had conquered it already a few decades before. The Serbs were very much angered by this. War with Austro-Hungary was avoided, but war came. The First Balkan War broke out in 1912, where Serbia teamed up with Montenegro, Bulgaria and Greece against the Ottoman Empire. Victory was achieved, but 1 year later they all teamed up against their former ally Bulgaria in the Second Balkan War, where Bulgaria was defeated. Serbia gained significant territorial expansion. Left frustrated, Bulgaria strengthened its ties with Austro-Hungary. The direct cause of the First World War occurred in Sarajevo on the 28th of June, when Austro-Hungarian Crown Prince Archduke Franz Ferdinand was assassinated by the Bosnian Serb Gavrilo Princip. The Austrian government accused the Serbian government of supporting this terrorist action and sent an ultimatum with 10 demands to the Serbian government. The Serbian government agreed to all points except one point that allowed Austro-Hungarian delegates to enter Serbian soil. Germany had already given the dual monarchy a blank check, meaning it would support Austro-Hungary in whatever its plans were. On the 28th of July, Austro-Hungary declared war on Serbia. The First World War had begun. Now actually, did you know that the very first shots of the First World War were fired in the night on the 28th to the 29th of July 1914. In the river, the Austro-Hungarian ship named SMS Bodrog fired its first shots to the Belgrade fortress. Now if you look at the current map, it would not make much sense why these first shots were fired here, since the border of Serbia is located much further north. But do understand that what is now northern Serbia was back then a part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The Serbian capital Belgrade was located next to the border with Austro-Hungary. Serbian Field Marshal Stepa Stevanović managed to mobilize 250,000 men in 3 armies. This was hindered by the lack of materials because of the previous Balkan wars. Yet the Serbs had the experience. Many Austro-Hungarian commanders like Oskar Potjerak hadn't seen a single day of battle before and were over-encouraged. Supreme Commander Franz Conrad von Hötzendorf expected a quick victory, but they were wrong. Because in 1914, the Austro-Hungarian army did not unleash 1, not 2, but 3 attacks on Serbia, and they all failed. On the 12th of August, the Austro-Hungarians pushed the Serbs across the river Jadar. The Serbs were led by General Radomir Putnik, who unleashed a counterattack that pushed the Austro-Hungarians back, in which they crossed Austrian land, and later the Austro-Hungarians executed another attack on Serbia, which failed. But then the Serbs realized they were overstretched. So therefore they decided to evacuate their capital, the capital of Belgrade, that was already so close on the Austro-Hungarian border. On the 1st of December 1914, Belgrade fell to the Central Powers. There were festivities in Vienna, and in Belgrade itself, which was now occupied, there was a parade. But their victory was short-lived. See, the Serbs, they pulled back into the mountainous terrain, and the Austro-Hungarians, they pursued them. But there, the temperatures became unbearable low, as one Austrian soldier wrote. "The terrain is horrible. We have no reserves. The soldiers think of suicide." The French provided the Serbs with ammunition, who then fought off the Austro-Hungarians. And 2 weeks after the capital of Belgrade had fallen to the Austrians, the Serbs recaptured it. And then, almost a year later, we're talking about October 1915, a combined German and Austro-Hungarian attack was unleashed on Serbia, and also Central Power Bulgaria marched in from the east. And this was too much for the Serbs. See, they had already lost many men, and there was also a typhoid epidemic that claimed many lives. The Central Powers pushed back the Serbs. French help from Greece did not prove successful. The last battle took place in Kosovo, after which the Serbs made the Great Retreat, evacuating their troops across the mountain range of Albania. It was a long and cold route through mountainous terrain, and not only soldiers but also civilians joined the retreat of around 200,000 soldiers. Food was scarce and the winter cold claimed many lives. Also, hostile Albanian tribesmen made deadly attacks. All in all, 75,000 Serbs did not survive the Great Retreat. And on the 28th of November, the Central Powers claimed victory over Serbia and could link overland to the Ottoman Empire. Now, during the Central Powers' occupation of Serbia, the Central Powers committed atrocities against Serbian people they deemed as enemies and partisans. The soldiers of the Serbian army that survived the Great Retreat made it to Corfu and from there to Thessaloniki, that was held by the Allies. There they joined the Allied powers on the Macedonian front, which was mostly static, but in 1918 this changed. During the Vardar offensive, which I covered in another video, the Central Powers were pushed back and eventually Serbia was liberated. According to estimates done by the Yugoslav government in 1924, Serbia lost 265,164 soldiers, or 25% of all mobilized people. The civilians that perished because of epidemics, famine and atrocities perpetrated by the Central Powers range from 100,000 to 1 million. And here we see yet Serbian estimates and estimates of Western historians that differ a bit. So I highly encourage you to look it up for yourself, and if you have any insights, feel free to share them below. Also, if you're Serbian, I really wonder what you thought of this video. Feel free to share it. If you want to learn about the Vardar offensive, the Allied victory over the Central Powers on the Macedonian front, click here. Thank you for watching. See you later.